The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not a peaceful silence. The kind that happens when people stop talking because you walked into the room. I was at my niece's wedding reception. A small hall in Pittsburgh with white lights and round tables and a cake that looked like it cost more than my first car. I had on my blue dress, the one my husband bought me for our 25th anniversary. I thought I looked nice. I thought people would be happy to see me. Instead, my daughter Laura looked at me from across the room and then turned away. My son Mark pretended to check his phone. My sister Carol gave me a smile that did not reach her eyes. I stood there with my purse in my hands and my heart in my throat. I did not know it yet, but Laura had already told the whole family that I had agreed to everything. The nursing home, the sale of my house, the power of attorney. She said I agreed. I did not agree to anything. My name is Eleanor. I am 76 years old. I live in a small row house in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. The house has 3 steps up to the front door. I have counted those steps every day for 30 years. They are worn down in the middle from all the people who have walked on them. My husband Bill died 8 years ago from a stroke that happened while he was shoveling snow. The neighbors found him. I was inside making soup. Tomato soup. I remember because I burned my tongue tasting it. That was the last thing I tasted before my life split in two. After Bill died, I kept living in the house. It was too big for one person, but I did not care. I liked the creaky floors. I liked the way the morning sun hit the kitchen at exactly 7:15. I liked knowing that Bill had painted the living room himself, even though he did a terrible job and the edges were all crooked. I worked as a secretary for a plumbing supply company for 35 years. My pension is small. Social Security helps. I have some savings. Not a lot. Enough to keep the heat on and buy groceries and get my hair done once a month at the salon where the ladies know my name. Laura is my oldest. She is 52. She lives in a suburb of Philadelphia with her husband, Greg. Greg is a dentist. I have a big house with a pool and 2 cars and a dog that cost more than my monthly rent. Laura is a realtor. She sells houses to people who have more money than me. She is good at her job. She is charming and persuasive, and she knows how to make people feel comfortable. I used to be proud of that. Now I understand that charm is just a tool. And I was just another client. The trouble started 2 years ago when I fell in my kitchen. I was reaching for a mug on the top shelf. The good mugs. The ones Bill brought back from a work trip to Chicago. I lost my balance and went down hard on my hip. Nothing broke, but I bruised myself badly. I could not walk for 3 days. Laura came to stay with me. She helped me bathe. She made me soup. She slept on the couch. I was grateful. I told her that. I said, Laura, thank you for taking care of me. She said, that is what daughters do, Mom. But something shifted during those 3 days. Laura started looking at my house differently. She noticed the stairs, the old wiring, the bathroom that needed a grab bar. She said, Mom, this house is not safe for you anymore. I said it has been safe for 30 years. She said, you are not 30 years younger. She was right about that. I was older. My balance was worse. My knees ached in the winter. But the house was my home, the only home I had left after Bill died. Laura started bringing brochures, assisted living facilities, retirement communities, a place called Golden Horizons that had a beautiful picture on the front of old people playing cards and smiling. She said, Mom, you would be so happy here. 3 meals a day, activities, people your own age. I said I do not want people my own age. I want my own things. She said, your things will come with you. I said, my house will not come with me. She said, the house is just a building. That was the moment I should have seen it. The way she said, just a building. Like the house where her father died meant nothing. Like the garden where she learned to ride a bike was just dirt. Like the kitchen where she baked her first burnt cookies was just appliances. But I did not see it. I thought she was worried. I thought she loved me. I thought a daughter's concern was always pure. That was my mistake. Over the next few months, Laura visited more often. She brought Greg. She brought her kids. They would sit in my living room and talk about the future. Laura would say, "Mom, you need to think about a care plan." I would say, "I have a care plan. I stay in my house until I die." She would sigh. Greg would look at his shoes. The kids would stare at their phones. I felt like a problem they were trying to solve. Not a mother. Not a person. A problem with a house attached. Then Laura brought up the money. She said, "Mom, you cannot afford to stay in this house forever. The property taxes are going up. The heating bill is too high. You are spending more than you earn." I knew that was true. I had been dipping into my savings for 2 years. The money was running out faster than I wanted to admit. Laura said, "If you sell the house, you will have enough to pay for a good facility for 10 years. I said, "I do not want a facility." She said, "Then, what do you want?" I said, "I want to die in my own bed." She said, "That is not realistic." I said, "Then, let me be unrealistic." She dropped the subject for a while. But she did not stop. She just changed her approach. She started being sweeter, more patient. She would bring me dinner on Sundays. She would help me clean the bathroom. She would sit with me and watch old movies. The ones Bill and I used to watch. Laura and I had not spent that much time together since she was a teenager. I loved it. I was lonely. Bill was gone. My friends were dying or moving to Florida. Laura filled a hole I did not know I had. That is how she got me. Not through pressure. Through presence. She showed up. She stayed. She made me feel seen. And when you feel seen by someone you love, you want to make them happy. You want to say yes. You want to be agreeable. You want to be the kind of mother who is not a burden. So when Laura brought the power of attorney papers, I signed them. She said it was just in case. In case I got sick. In case I could not make decisions for myself. She said, "Mom, this does not mean anything changes right now. It just means if something happens, I can help you." I did not read the papers. I trusted her. I signed them on my kitchen table while the kettle was boiling for tea. The tea was Earl Grey. I remember because the bag tore when I put it in the cup. Small things. Small memories. They stay with you when the big things fall apart. After that, Laura started making more decisions. She said she was helping. She hired a company to clear out the attic. I did not ask her to. She said it was a fire hazard. I lost boxes of Bill's old letters. His yearbooks. His collection of matchbooks from restaurants that no longer existed. I cried when I found out. Laura said, "Mom, you cannot keep everything." I said I was not keeping everything. I was keeping my husband. She said, "You cannot keep a dead person in a box." I did not answer. I just went to my room and closed the door. Then she started talking about the nursing home again. But this time she did not ask. She told me she had found a place. A nice place. 20 minutes from her house. She had already put down a deposit. She said, "Mom, I want you to see it." I said I do not want to see it. She said, "Just look. You do not have to decide today." I went. I let her drive me there. The building was clean. The hallways smelled like floor wax and canned peas. The room she showed me was small, a bed, a dresser, a window that faced a parking lot. The woman in the next room was watching television with the volume so loud I could hear every word. I sat on the bed. The mattress was hard. The pillow was thin. Laura stood in the doorway smiling. She said, "See, it is not so bad." I said, "I am not moving here." She said, "We will talk about it later." There was no later. There was only her plan. What I did not know was that Laura had already told the family a different story. She had called my sister Carol. She had called my son Mark. She had called my cousins and my neighbors and the ladies from my church. She told them all the same thing. Mom agreed. She decided it was time. She is excited about the move. She wants to be closer to me. She wants to sell the house and simplify. She said I was on board. She said I was happy. None of them asked me, not one. Not even Carol. My own sister. She took Laura's word because Laura sounded so sure. Laura sounded like someone who had everything under control. That is her gift. She makes lies sound like news. The wedding was where it all fell apart. My niece Allison was getting married. A beautiful girl. Her mother was my brother's wife. I had watched Allison grow up. I had made her a quilt when she went to college. I had sent her money for her first apartment. I loved her, and I wanted to be at her wedding. Laura picked me up. She drove me to Pittsburgh. On the way, she said, "Mom, remember we are celebrating today." No heavy conversations. Just smiles, I agreed. I wanted peace. I wanted to see Allison in her dress. I wanted to eat cake and dance badly and pretend everything was fine. But when we walked into the reception hall, I felt the shift. People looked at me like I was breakable. Like I was already gone. Like I was a ghost at a party. A woman named Susan from my church came up to me. She said, "Eleanor, I heard you are moving to a lovely facility. I am so happy for you." I said, "I am not moving." She blinked. She said, "But Laura said you were so excited." I looked at Laura. She was across the room talking to Greg. She would not meet my eyes. I said, "Susan, I am not moving." Susan looked confused. Then she looked uncomfortable. She excused herself to get a drink. That is when I started paying attention. The whispers, the sideways glances, the way people would start a conversation with me and then trail off like they had been told not to say too much. My nephew Tom came up to me. He said, "Aunt Eleanor, I heard you signed everything over to Laura. That was very generous of you." I said I did not sign anything over. He said, "But she said you signed a power of attorney." I said that is different. That is for emergencies. He looked doubtful. He said, "Okay, if you say so." He walked away. I stood there holding a glass of punch. The punch was warm. The ice had melted. I felt the same way. Then my sister Carol found me. She pulled me into a corner near the bathrooms. She said, "Eleanor, what is going on?" I said I do not know. She said, "Laura told me you are selling the house next month. You are moving into Golden Horizons. You agreed to let her manage your finances." I said none of that is true. Carol said, "Then why is Laura telling everyone that?" I said I do not know. Carol said you need to talk to her. I said I will. But I did not move. I stood in that corner with Carol and watched the wedding guests dance and laugh and eat tiny sandwiches. I felt like I was watching a movie about someone else's life. I found Laura near the cake table. She was cutting a slice for herself. I said, "Laura, we need to talk." She said, "Not now, Mom." I said, "Yes, now." She put down the plate. She said, "Fine." We walked outside to the parking lot. It was cold. The wind was blowing napkins across the asphalt. I said, "Why are you telling people I agreed to sell my house?" She said, "Because you did agree." I said I did not. She said, "Mom, we talked about this. You know you cannot afford to stay there." I said, "That is not the same as agreeing." She said, "It is the same to me." I said, "Laura, you are lying to our family." She said, "I am protecting you." I said, "From what?" She said, "From yourself. From your stubbornness. From your refusal to face reality." I said, "The reality is my house, my life, my decision." She said, "The reality is you are 76 years old, and you have no money and you cannot take care of yourself." Those words hit me like a slap. No money. Cannot take care of yourself. She had reduced me to 2 sentences. 2 sentences that made me sound helpless. Made her sound necessary. Made her lies sound like love. I said, "Laura, I want the power of attorney back." She said, "You cannot just take it back." I said, "It is my signature. I can revoke it." She said, "You will need a lawyer." I said, "Then I will get a lawyer." She laughed. A short laugh, not mean. Just tired. She said, "Mom, you cannot afford a lawyer." I said, "I will find a way." She said, "You will not." She walked back inside. I stayed in the parking lot. The wind was cold. My blue dress was thin. I stood there for a long time looking at the cars. I did not cry. I was too angry to cry, too hurt, too confused. But mostly I was angry at myself. For signing those papers. For trusting her. For being so easy to erase. The drive home was silent. Laura did not speak. I did not speak. The radio was off. The only sound was the tires on the highway. When we got to my house, Laura parked the car. She said, "Mom, I love you." I said, "I love you too. But love and trust are not the same thing." She looked at me. For a second, she looked like the little girl who used to hold my hand at the bus stop. Then the look was gone. She said, "Good night, Mom." I got out of the car. I walked up my 3 steps. I unlocked my door. I went inside. The house was dark. The kettle was cold. I sat in Bill's chair and did not move until morning. The next week, I called a lawyer, a woman named Margaret, who worked out of a small office in the town center. She charged me $200 for the first visit. I paid her with money from my emergency envelope, the envelope under the mattress where Bill used to keep cash for fishing trips. Margaret reviewed the power of attorney. She said, "Mrs. Miller, you can revoke this at any time. You do not need Laura's permission." She drafted a revocation letter. I signed it. She mailed it to Laura and to the bank. I felt lighter. Not happy. Just less heavy. Laura called me 3 days later. She was angry. Not screaming. The quiet kind of angry that is worse. She said, "Mom, you made me look like a fool." I said, "I made you look like someone who told lies about me." She said I was trying to help. I said help does not feel like this. She hung up. That was 6 months ago. We have spoken 4 times since. Short calls. Her voice is cold. Mine is tired. She does not visit anymore. She does not bring dinner. She does not watch old movies with me. The hole she filled is empty again. But this time I do not mind. Loneliness is better than a lie wearing a smile. I still live in my house. The stairs are harder now. The bathroom still needs a grab bar. But I found a handyman, a young man named Javier. He comes once a month. He fixes things. He charges me a fair price. He calls me Miss Eleanor. He does not try to sell my house. He does not tell me what I cannot do. He just fixes the leaky faucet and waves goodbye. That is the kind of help I need. Quiet, honest. Without strings. The family knows the truth now. Carol called me after the revocation letter was sent. She said, "Eleanor, I am so sorry. Laura told us you had changed your mind." I said I never changed my mind because I never made it up. Carol was quiet. Then she said, "I should have asked you myself." I said yes. "You should have." She apologized. I accepted. But something shifted between us two. A crack that cannot be fully sealed. That is what Laura took from me. Not just my trust. The ease of my family. The simple belief that they would always ask me first. I do not hate Laura. That is the strange part. I am her mother. I changed her diapers. I stayed up with her when she had nightmares. I paid for her first car. I helped her pack for college. I stood in the rain at her wedding. I held her babies when they were born. You cannot hate someone you have loved that deeply. You can only grieve them. And that is what I do now. I grieve the daughter I thought I had. The one who would never lie about me. The one who would ask before she decided. The one who would see me as a person, not a problem. This emotional story does not have a dramatic ending. There was no court scene. No public apology. No moment where Laura broke down and admitted everything. She still believes she was right. She still thinks she was protecting me. That is the hardest part. She is not a villain. She is a woman who convinced herself that her lies were kindness. And I am a woman who let her. For too long. Until I could not anymore. The moral of this family drama is simple. Do not sign anything without reading it. Do not give away your power because someone is nice to you. And never assume that your family will ask you what you actually want. They might decide for you. They might tell everyone you agreed. And by the time you find out the story of your own life has already been written by someone else. I still have my house. My crooked walls. My creaky floors. My 3 steps. Every morning, I walk down those steps to get the mail. Every evening, I walk back up. I am slow. But I am still walking. And as long as I am walking, I am still the one who decides where I go. If this emotional story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to My Grandma Voices for more real-life inspired family stories.